Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where for a limited time Sunday, that means limited for you as well, they're having Substravaganza, which is all 7-inch subs for
$4.99.
$4.99.
Dude, I can't. I've talked enough about him. I can't go on.
Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell because we haven't talked enough about Lev. Would you take him back?
Absolutely. I'm 100% in. I'm 100% in. I sent this out during the game on Sunday night, and I don't think people necessarily understood what I was saying at the time.
Yeah, on the live feed.
But Ryan Switzer was being used as Le'Veon Bell, not just out of the backfield, but 2-yard slants trying to get some extra stuff. He was eating into targets that should be going to anybody else on the team. Not saying he's not talented and can't make things happen.
He's not Le'Veon Bell,
but he's not Le'Veon Bell. You're talking about the guy who caught the second most passes on the team.
But I also understand that when you win a championship and you've covered a championship, okay, and you know what goes into that, you can't have partial passenger type players on board. This guy is still openly stating, that if I come in this week, then there's fewer snaps in which I don't have to get hurt. Why would anyone think that he's going to commit himself to anything here?
I don't know if he'll 100% buy in. I predicted that he wouldn't play a snap after what happened to Earl Thomas in Seattle.
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is worst case scenario for the NFL going into 2020, 2021.
It really is.
But I just can't imagine that he does give his full effort, but the Steelers need him if he's going to.
Okay, you got as good, if not better, perspective on this than anybody because you're right down there at field level. Is AB getting the separation that he needs, or is this just all on Ben's bad throws? Why are they not connecting?
I think one reason is that they're not just the other guys aren't necessarily getting the ball when they're open, and it's not giving a chance for the team to get AB down to single coverage or even less of a shade. He did a really good job on a couple of plays that didn't end up counting. You look at the James Conner block, which I call it a block and not a penalty. I mean, that's a big chunk of yards.
Yeah.
It ended up not hurting them, but in the long run, it eats more time.
Well, I see what you're saying though, because if you're getting the ball consistently, and they have at certain spells, to Vance McDonald, to Juju Smith-Schuster, even to Ryan Switzer, James Washington, then you're kind of spreading the attack around. But there's also, to bring him up again, there's the Bell variable, because in addition to being the running back that he is and the wide receiver that he is and wants to be paid like, he also keeps the defenses guessing.
Sure.
They don't know what's coming next, so they're maybe not as inclined. However, this is what gets me. I'm not seeing AB getting special attention out there. The occasional double coverage, I'm not seeing something different than last season.
I think a bigger issue, I legitimately think the guy scores on a route that Ben missed him on in that game on Sunday night. Ben underthrew him inside. He was making an inside like a skinny post down the left side of the field.
Which one you're talking about.
Underthrows him, and AB turns. He turns around. He's flinching his arms. He doesn't understand. And on a similar play later, when AB was legitimately overcovered, 19. This is at the end of the game when they're trying to make a last-ditch effort. 19 standing in the middle of the field with nobody around him.
I know.
Nobody
that was down
around
to our
him.
left. I remember this. Yeah.
And we're talking about a guy who would force feed in Ben, force feed Martavis Bryant the ball to try and get him going.
Yeah, it's not happening, and really, I don't want to be Joe Common fan here that just points everything at the quarterback, but right now that is kind of what it's looking like. Penguins are unquestionably deep up front, especially at center. They're deeper than we thought they'd be, even because of that guy. But in goal, I'm seeing Matt Murray, and I'm seeing two guys that maybe aren't really NHL goaltenders in Casey DeSmith and Tristan Jarry. I'm not being mean.
No, and at best they're backups at this point. Who knows with Jarry in the future?
Well, but what's Jim Rutherford do here? Does he keep looking? I mean, think about his history in particular, even going back to his days in Carolina where he could just not have enough goaltending.
Well, depends. Is it Niemi the guy you're going after, or
yeah, okay, he had to go there,
or is it that Kolzig guy who's been out of the league for a while and they can't get his name right?
Oh, had to take a shot at the Capitals too. Answer the question, Sunday.
the guys made some really good trades to bring in center depth.
Yes.
Meaning Rutherford is obviously.
All kinds of moves, yeah.
And now we're looking at actual center depth that isn't necessarily expendable.
It's outrageous center depth.
But they could move a guy and bring somebody in who's, got some years under his belt, gives unquestionably Tristan Jarry when he's back the chance to just develop and not worry about the up and down.
There's not a ton of room under the cap for Rutherford to make any kind of move.
But backup goalies don't.
But they don't cost much.
Sure.
So you might look at a team that's legitimately 3 deep somewhere and just say, can you get us one of those for a 4th round or 5th rounder? Heaven knows Jim's not shy about giving up draft picks.
No, look at even pre-Rutherford, we're talking about the guys like Brent Johnson who come in and you don't expect
Journeyman.
anything at the time, but they ended up being
Serviceable
fan favorites and being able to step in when they had to.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that exists right now. Pirates season is over, but maybe there's the start of something with what they've done with their rotation. You buying or selling?
I think I'm buying. I don't know if I'm positive or not, though. I like a lot of the stuff that I saw personally down around the dugout. Obviously, Trevor Williams is just a story.
He's a story, but is that sustainable?
Look, the guy,
I know he's done it for such a long
half of a year. This is not Jeff Locke, where Jeff Locke pitches a great first half of the year, goes to the All-Star game, and then that's it.
But that stuff, it just feels like that somebody's going to figure out that what he was doing, and this is to his inestimable credit, he found a way to work high in the zone, to make his fastball play, to keep hitters honest, to keep them off balance. That just feels like the kind of thing that an opponent in the division is going to figure out.
I think about a guy who is one of the great pitchers of all time, and I'm not saying Trevor Williams is a great pitcher.
He's comparing Trevor Williams to the great pitchers of all time.
But Greg Maddux is a guy who
he just compared Trevor Williams to Greg Maddux.
Listen. He was a location
See that picture up there?
guy.
That's Greg Maddux up there.
He was a location guy who led off counts with pitches you weren't expecting, like changeups, and he opens with just putting the ball where it needed to be to
His
get guys out.
His location was beautiful.
So I'm not saying Trevor Williams is ever going to be Greg Maddux, but he might be better than his stuff, and he has been, and that's fine.
Jamison Tyone pitched. I know Pittsburghers have started to really abuse this term, but he has pitched like an ace. Now, an ace, ever since the wild card era, means in Pittsburgh something different than it does everywhere else. It means somebody who can go out there
A single game
and
guy.
knock out, Madison Bumgarner or Jake Arrieta in a one-game playoff. A real ace gets you 32 starts, gets you consistency, gets you deep into games, gives you a chance to win. Check, 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 and more checks for Tyone.
Yeah, especially when, again, you look at his second half of the season. I mean, his numbers were just
Remarkable.
Incredible.
In some contexts, like historic.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of the streak of keeping guys under 3 earned runs, keeping teams under 3 earned runs.
Yeah, so you're talking about 2 guys there. I really like what Joe Musgrove has done in the clubhouse and in the room especially.
He's awesome. I wish people would have seen even more of him, because some of his best outings came after the Pirates were off the radar, and the stuff that you and I have seen of him off the field.
I wish people could see him down there.
He's special. He's special in the clubhouse too, and I think he's going to become a big part.
The hardest thing is going to be, he was injured for 2 weeks early, or for an extended period of time early in the season, then they had to shut him down
at the end.
So like all pitchers, he's got to stay healthy.
And so does Chris Archer.
Sure.
I mean, Chris Archer had, for the first time, some setbacks. This is a guy who's been known for his durability with his time in Tampa Bay. He also was known as being a lot better of a pitcher than what we saw when he first came over.
Not his
and was,
best season.
by the way, so insanely overhyped by, not me, not us. Okay, you can go back and read it. But the way that the community reacted to, wow, this is like when so-and-so was acquired. No, it's not. Chris Archer is Chris Archer. Just because they won the deadline didn't mean he was a great pitcher.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to be the ace of the staff. He just has to be an experienced guy who helps guys like Tyone and helps guys like Williams and even Musgrove. I mean, the guy's got a championship ring, but he's a young guy still.
No, and I think we can say a lot of the same things about Archer that we just did about Musgrove in terms of how he is and how he conducts himself, a consummate professional, in addition to being a pretty good pitcher. After that, we can talk about fifth starters till we're blue in the face. There isn't a team in baseball other than Houston that has a fifth starter.
Yeah, I mean, who knows about Ivan Nova's status moving forward?
Ivan Nova has another year on that contract, and he did kind of finish okay. But look, the rotation was a W for the Pirates this season, independent of everything else, including their overall record. I think we can agree on that.
Look, I think that the team traded the player that made them who they are in this modern era and gave them a chance, and they ended up a better team at the end of the year.
They certainly ended up a better pitching staff.
So I'm buying.